Hi, this is Shubham Oja, and in this short video, I'll create and publish a Jira workflow that models a software development lifecycle with transitions on guardrail, and I'll demo it on a Kanban board. So let's get started. So as you can see, I'm on my Jira screen. I'll go to Jira. I'll use one of the existing projects which I have over here, which is a company managed project. So in this one, as you can see, this is empty right now. Over here, I'll go to the project settings. I'll go to workflows. And as I do not have a create new button over here, like this version of the UI doesn't give me the create new one. So I'll be using this workflow in order to create my workflow. This is a normal draft one. So as you can see, this is a draft board. First, let me just make it a little bit tidy. And then let us start by adding the status. So we'll add the status live. Let's say I want to add backlog, selected for development, and I'll be using in progress. I'll be using code review. Of course, after code review, we need to go to and testing once the code review is done. And then let's say we will keep something called as done. Now let us remove the existing transitions like this anyone so that it's clean and we can create our workflow the way we want. So this is gone, and in this one, let's change the status to backlog. So it always starts from a backlog, right? And I think I can delete this one, delete this status. It's not required. I'll keep it here. So I'll add a transition where I'll create backlog. Let's name it as start progress. Okay. So I'll add a new transition, which is from selected for development to in progress. So let's say we name it as start work. Okay. So we have started the work. Anyway. Okay. So from in progress to code review, right? So let's name it as submit for review. And I click on this. So it goes to submit from review. And now let us add another transition for from code review to QA testing. QA. So I create this transition here. So from QA, let's say to done, right? Okay, so far we are done till here. Now let us understand if our code, if from in progress status, if someone sends it for code review and it fails the code review part. So we need to have a way back to in progress. So for that, let's add a transition where we can go from code review to in progress. And let's just write changes required maybe. So I'll just click on changes required. I'll pull this down a little bit for a neater view. And there can be another scenario where a done item is reopened once again. So there should be a way back to backlog, right? Our done to backlog. So I'll add a transition back done to backlog. And let's say just name it reopen, and this goes and this reopens. Now there is one more thing. If our code review is done and it is sent for QA, but there are some QA points in the subtask which are still not done. So we need to send it back to reopen. So in that case, I'll just go for QA, and here I'll select in progress. Let's name it as like failed QA, right? So if it fails QA, then it comes back over here. And this is our basic transitions, as we can see. So our workflow is simple. we can create items in the backlog, and the items will be prioritized like based on the priority whoever assigns it. It gets selected for development. The features which are shortlisted for development moves here. Then once there is a assignee, then only we can move to a one progress. Like in progress can only be moved from selected for development when it has an assignee in it. It needs to be assigned to somebody. So let's add that rule. So in case of start work, let's go to rules and add a basic one. So I'll be selecting this option where we can restrict who can move this issue. So I'll click on that. I'll select it. So I'll just click over here. I'll just add this rule over here. Okay. So let's add another rule at submit for review. So how, like, we want to add an assign issue, let's say, and we just want to add it to a project lead. So whenever it is submitted from in progress to code review, it is automatically assigned to the available project lead, right? Now let us add another one to, let's say, I'll just add another one, let's say Mark has done. So I think Mark has done name is not going here. So I'll just use a release for this one. So I'll just release it, right? So over here, we can add a rule, which is restrict based on the subtasks, right? So, so if the subtasks are either, let's say, resolved or done, then only we want to move it to done, or else we cannot move it to done. So our basic workflow is ready. This is the one, this is how it goes for a software development life cycle. I'm trying to mimic that. So this is the workflow which we want to use, and I will be publishing it. So the workflow is now updated. Now let us just close this one. As you can see, so I just want to publish the changes, and all work types and status can be migrated automatically. So let us just assign associated. Once that is done, here is our workflow. So let's come back to our project. Over here, as you can see, this is our view over here. I want to change the view a little bit according to the kind of workflow that we have created. So I will just try to, so I'll go to the board settings, I'll go to the layout, I'll go to the columns. So as you can see, these status, these things are not being used right now. So how about we create two paths over here? Let's say move to, I'll use for selected for development. Okay, I'm just making this view to make sure that we can mimic the kind of workflow that we have created. This is a very optional step, but I'm just doing it for better visibility. So I'll use it here, and let us say we want QA and testing, QA. So I'll add a QA block as well. So before done, it can be coming to QA and progress. So we have this progress. When the progress is done, then we send it for code review. So I'll just add a code review as well. Code review. So let's put it here in progress to code review. So this is how the sequence will look like on our Kanban board. Now let us map the status. So I'll keep it here, backlog. And for QA and testing, I'll keep it here. And for selected for development, just a second. Yes. So for selected for development, I'll just put it here, and code review, I'll put it here, right? So now we can view the different status in different places, and this is how now our board will look like. So let's get back to the board. So as you can see, so I'll create a very dummy task over here to create a demo task, maybe to FA, add to factor authentication on user dashboard, user login. I'll just use this one as a demo one. So I'll create this. and let's move it to the first sprint, right? I'll just move it to the first sprint over here. I'll confirm it. So I'll just write login screen. So I've created two tasks and I've started in my sprint. So I'll just try to go to my active sprint and I'll show you that we cannot move it anywhere. Why? Because we added one rule that we cannot move it to in progress unless there is someone assigned to it, right? So I click over here, let's assign it to me. Now, if I want to move it, I can go to in progress. Now, if I want to move it to code review, it goes to the code review. If it fails the code review, we can send it back to in progress. It is over there again, right? Once the code progress is kind of done, it is submitted for the review again. And then let's say we send it to QA. Now, if it fails the quality test, we can move it to either in progress or done, right? We cannot move it anywhere else according to the rules that we have set. Let's say the QA is done, so I'll just move it to done, and we have completed this feature. So let's do it for this one. It passes the code review, it passes the QA, and it is done, right? But let's say the two-factor authentication somehow fails again. So we want to add the two-factor authentication once more. So we put it on the backlog. So this was a very short demonstration on how we can kind of manage like the backlog, send it in the sprints. We will have multiple sprints. Let's say we can, of course, we can create more sprints over here depending on our problem. And this workflow will ensure that none of our rule fails and we can have a better visibility. We can see like which are the tasks which are selected in the backlog, which are completed, which are selected for development. We can see everything in the summary. You can see the swim lane over here. So this is a basic Jira setup which I have done in order to show how we can create a workflow, how we can add transitions and states to it, how we can add rules or conditions to our transitions, and ensure that in a existing or a new project, use that workflow and of course keep it ahead.